Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in beautiful, pulchritudinous, peaceful, tranquil New York City. Those are the words that have never been used to describe this city. I'm very happy to be bringing you yet another edition of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast ever. I'm not alone, guys. Joining me via Skype, that's right, just like it's 2004, it's Skype, and we've got one of our most popular guests of all time, a repeat guest. He is a very, very strong professional poker player. He's also a poker coach and the author of four poker books. My friend, the Assassinato himself, Alex Fitzgerald. Alex, how are you?
I'm good, man. Honored to be back. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. How have you been?
I've been good. Just grinding, teaching, doing the same old things. How you been?
Yeah, I'm good too. I'm excited to get out to Vegas next month for the WPT Championship. I'm not in that free roll yet, but I am trying like crazy to get into the $5 million free roll. I'm sending people emails like, who do I have to sleep with to get a seat in the free roll? So far, no takers. I don't know what that tells me.
Oh, no.
Will I see you out there?
Hopefully. I'm I'd say about 40% on it. The thing being, I've got a lot of students now, so when I'm away for poker, I can get away for like a day or two, but if I'm away for like a week or two, we kind of get backed up as far as the lessons and whatnot, or I get kind of backed up as far as the lessons. So I try to get out there, and, it's one of those things where when you win certain satellites and whatnot, you go, oh, wow, that cut down the cost pretty significantly. All right, let's go ahead and do this. But otherwise, Vegas is expensive, man. I liked it better when it was run by the mob. It's like $25 to park your car for an hour. Now, like, what happened?
No, totally. Vegas used to be a lot more reasonable before the corporations took over. It's, the parking, that seems to be the one that nobody can really let go of. It's like,
yeah,
come on, man. Okay, don't give me a free buffet, but charge me $25 to park my car?
I know, it's pretty ridiculous. Well, whenever I do my taxes and I look at my Vegas trips, I go, my God, I spent how much? So I need to really cut down expenses as much as possible. So if I win a seat in there, that's easier. If you ever can cut down the expenses in any fashion like that, that really helps. But otherwise, other than that, I'm really liking playing at Blackhawk. I can do a lesson in the morning, work on my newsletter, get out of here by 10, get up to the mountains by noon, play a $500 tournament, grind with the mountain men, you know what I mean? In a manner of speaking. But
yeah, so I haven't been to Blackhawk. What's it like up there? What kind of action is it?
Oh man, it's loose as hell. It's like I just started getting up to there more regularly because I guess after 2021, I was just stuck in my office like, okay, I'm just going to grind these websites nonstop. And then only recently I've started going up there more, and it's just great action. It's poker at 8,500 feet, so it's already pretty loopy. And then you get the mountain men are just hilarious, man. They're there to gamble. They're there for a good time. And most of them have been really polite with me. So I kind of like that. I like the action players that are there for a good time and aren't really rude. So I've been having a lot of fun there.
That sounds cool. Now, when you say mountain men, are these like actual lumberjacks, or are you just exaggerating?
I guess it's just a joke about their copious beards. You know what I mean? Yeah, but no, I mean, it's you get a lot of people from the Denver area, so you'll get like programmers and teachers and business owners, and yeah, you get some people from the rural communities, so it's a nice mixed bag.
Nice, nice. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm going to have to play. I'm actually going to be in Denver at the Improv in January. I know you're probably going to come out and check out the show, so I'm excited to have you in the audience.
I already got my tickets.
How cool is that? January 16th at the Denver Improv. I'm headlining. It's my first time there. So I'm looking forward to seeing you, and maybe we can, get a drink and maybe go play some poker with some mountain men while I'm in town.
Let's do it. We'll be up till 4 a.m. delirious at 8,500 feet. Wait till you feel the elevation, man. It's a different world.
Yeah, I don't know if I should be looking forward to that or not. Now, is this why your site is called Poker Head Rush, or is that unrelated?
I always thought it was kind of fun, the idea of a poker concept that just hits you over the head, and then you just kind of felt like a head rush with it. So I got that domain ages ago with a friend of mine, and now I'm doing it on my own. And yeah, but I guess now with the elevation, it really works in well.
But it was actually unrelated originally.
It was unrelated, yeah.
Well, you look good. You're taking care of yourself. You're working out. You're eating right. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I'm trying to take care of myself. I work and then I forget to eat, and then I eat, and then people do the whole, oh, you're intermittent fasting. And I go, I don't really know if that works as well as people think it does, because I just become a garbage disposal once I finally eat, and it's a lot of calories. So my weight fluctuates a bit, but yeah, I'm hitting the gym and normally eating a little bit less than maybe I used to. And yeah, it's been going pretty good, and just grinding a lot, putting in hours, having a lot of fun, trying to play once in a while live, and yeah, playing every Sunday I can.
All right, so you're doing like the Sunday online grind, and occasionally heading up to Black Hawk to play with the Mountain Men, right?
Yeah, just started working in the Black Hawk stuff. It's been pretty fun. But yeah, for the longest time, I was just grinding online nonstop. And I like an anonymous site, because then I can just do the same exploitative plays again and again and again, and nobody knows who I am. So I can just get away with it nonstop.
Right. Wow, that's really cool. So what are you doing more of? Because you did say you've got a lot of students and there's a lot of coaching going on. Are you doing more teaching or more playing, or is it 50-50?
I'd say about 2 days a week I try to play, and then sometimes I'll play on the apps on my phone while I'm watching Futurama or something. Real good focus poker right there. But it's one of those things where if I'm watching silly TV, I'm like, okay, I can one table and watch this. But about 2 days committed to poker a week, and then 5 days committed to teaching. And yeah, I don't take days off. I know a lot of people think that's crazy, but I'll take like half days. Sometimes I'll wake up at 6 and I'll get done with work at like 10, do a lesson, do a little bit of writing, and then I'll go off and do something for fun that day with my girlfriend.
I mean, there are some people that are just built differently, that you don't need a day off, and you don't even enjoy a full day off, and taking half a day off feels just as good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I can shut it down too. My girlfriend and I got to go to Mexico City. It was this year. When was that? It was at the beginning of baseball season, May. So we were there. We went and got to see the Diablos Rojos. That's why I remember it was baseball season. But we went to Mexico City, and like for a week I didn't work there, because you're in Mexico City. Why would you work when you're abroad, right? But yeah, when I'm just kicking around my house, talking about poker doesn't feel like hard work. Like what my dad does for work is ridiculous. My dad and my grandfather were commercial fishermen, and they just work, when those guys are up there, it's like 100-hour weeks and 7 days a week, and it's wildly dangerous. And yeah, I went up there and did that for like one season, and they started me with like the training wheels, and I still was like, get me off this boat. I grew up in the lower 48. I am soft. I grew up playing video games. I'm not as tough as you guys. So when I'm just kind of kicking around my house talking cards, that doesn't really, it's really cool when you have like the retiree grandmother who wants to just kick all the boys' asses at 1-3, like teaching her all the big bluffs and whatnot. Nobody sees it coming. It's a good time.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a little bit of coaching myself. I mean, nowhere near at the volume that you are, but one of my students is a retired lady. She's an older lady. She had her own business and sold it, and now she's independently wealthy, but she wants to spend her retirement years playing poker. And she's crushing it because she looks like she looks so completely harmless. And if I saw her at my table, I would assume she's incapable of a single barrel bluff, much less a triple.
Yeah, they can just. It's so fun getting to teach them the playbook. And I go like, listen, if this bluff works for me, it's going to work 10 times more for you, because I look like some guy who's trying to take your chips. I look like the generic 35-year-old white guy at the table. You know what I mean? So, yeah, use this.
Totally. Yeah, that's right. So tell me about your new book. This is book number 4. First off, congratulations. I have one book out. People know publishing a book is one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I can't believe you've actually done it 4 times. Are you a masochist?
I am. I like it, man. Well, that's the thing. To your credit, though, man, now nobody can ever take that away from you. That forever you are published author. Don't ever forget that.
That's true.
It was a major publisher too, if I recall correctly. That's not easy, because they get their pound of flesh out of you, you know. But I actually am kind of a masochist. When I'm playing poker, as far as I enjoy it, would be like an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Like, I still really enjoy playing cards, but I've been doing it my whole life. So there's a lot of hands that are really routine, and those hands don't engage me like they did when I first started. But when I'm writing, that's like a 10 out of 10 for me. I really love that. I really love being in the dark and like just chugging 6 cups of coffee with metal music playing and just ink slinging, you know what I mean? I like it. The editing part is way harder. Like, to write is human, to edit is divine, but just writing stuff is pretty fun. Yeah, and this one's called How to Beat Players Who Never Fold. And that one was a challenge because I was trying to think of what's the problem everybody says they have, which is, okay, multi-way pots, nobody ever folds, home games where everybody's insane, 1-3, 1-2 where everybody's nuts, casino tournaments where nobody will fold to me. How could you actually beat those games? And I was trying to think of, you know, how could you in 300 pages give people a guide to do that? And I really like the answer I came up with. It took a lot of time, but yeah, maybe I am kind of sick. I really like just sitting here it was a Colorado winter, and I was just sitting here just banging away at the keyboard trying to make it happen. And yeah, thankfully it's out there. Check it out on Amazon. How to Beat Players Who Never Fold. Very subtle plug right there.
No, that's okay. Give us a little, just a little taste of, you know, what the answer is, because, you know, my listeners are thinking, I'll buy his book, but, you know, he's on the podcast. So how do you beat players who never fold?
Well, there's a couple different things. So let's start with the most basic one that happens for most low limit players, which is everybody limps.
Yeah.
You raise to isolate. And nobody folds. So let's start with that. So let's say there's 4 limpers. So you got 4 big blinds out there, 5 big blinds, 5.5. The average person I ask, how much do you raise here? You got like an ace-queen offsuit on the button, or an ace-queen suited, whatever it is. And they say, I'm going to make it 5 big blinds, 6 big blinds, 7 big blinds. And I go, great, that would have worked awesome 8 years ago. Now that's going to be called a sweetener. That's just going to get everybody... You're just going to make the pot a little sweeter, and then you're going to have a hand that makes one vulnerable pair. Why is that a problem? Well, in a multi-way pot, the average winning hand is going to be 2 pair sets, flushes, straights. So if you get one mediocre top pair, that's going to get really expensive really quick. Now, what you want to do is just double what's out there in the middle. So there's 6 or 7 big blinds out there. Make it 15. Now, to anyone with a clue, that's going to look like a huge raise, and they're going to get out of there. But old Earl, who likes to drink Bud Light and gamble on Friday nights and loves his Jack 8 suited, thank you very much, is not going to be folding. So then you're going to have this 30, 35x, whatever, pot, heads up, with position bigger pot, superior hands heads up with one of the weaker players at the table. That's a huge edge to overcome for anybody who's playing against you. Now, let's say, a lot of people tell me, no, you don't understand. In my games, they won't fold. I go, okay, great. So all 4 people call you. Your job is really easy now. When they all check to you on the flop, which is what's going to happen most of the time, you have a pot-sized bet back. If you have top pair and you just shove top pair with a pot-sized bet back, you're not making a mistake. And if you miss, just take your free card. You get a 4-card flop while everybody else gets 3 cards. That's a huge edge to work with. So raise bigger pre-flop. That would be the first thing I'd tell people to do.
That's kind of a spin-off of one of your earlier books, Exploitative Play in Live Poker.
Oh, yeah.
Where you did, kind of fundamental theorem of that book, if you will, is you want to be in position with superior holdings in inflated pots versus weak competition. And so now this sounds like it's extrapolating that general idea and applying it to kind of these extremely loose, extremely sticky type of games. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like bluffing is a big part of the strategy at all here, is it?
Well, you can bluff, but what happens is a lot of people tell me, nobody folds to my bets, which translates to me, nobody folds to my half pot size bet. It's called no limit hold'em. You can bet anything you damn well please. It's not called half pot limit hold'em. So there's a lot of times your opponents are just going to tell you they have a mediocre hand. So let's say you're playing a casino tournament. It's a little bit deeper in the tournament, and you raise, doesn't even really matter. Big blind calls you. You raise on the button, the big blind calls you. The board comes 7 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, 3 of hearts. He checks really quick. You bet. He calls you really quick. Low stakes guys do this all the time. They quickly call to let you know, I got something big here, bud. Don't come after me. And here's the thing. If he had a set right there, he'd probably raise. If he had 2 pair, he'd probably raise. If he had an overpair, he'd probably check raise. If he had an overpair, he probably would have 3-bet pre-flop. So mathematically speaking, if you're counting the combinations, what he most likely has is a 7, 5, or 3. Now, that board's a little bit better for him than it is for you because, cards 4 through 8 are better for the big blind right there than they're going to be for the raising party where you have more high cards. But you really shouldn't care because when the guy's just going to tell you, I have 1 mediocre pair, and he's not going to have his flush draw 90% of the time or however you want to range him, you'll find it's the majority of the time he doesn't have it. You can represent on the turn the 4, the 6, the diamond, the overcards are all going to be very bad cards for the 7, 5, or 3. And then don't bet the 70% pot because he's seen that 100,000 times in his life. Bet 150% pot. It needs to work 60% of the time, but he's going to be sitting there going, what the hell is this? When the queen overcard comes or the diamond comes or whatever it is. Now, that's a blunt force instrument. You don't obviously have to use that big of a bet every single time or on every single turn card. But that's an example of how you could very easily get a 7, 5, or 3 to fold more than 6 times out of 10, which is how often that bet would need to work. And a lot of people say, yeah, that play would work, but when I run into it, I'm going to look like an idiot. And it's like, yeah, I've overbet and then folded when the guy jams on me before. It feels pretty stupid. But generally, most of the time, you're going to be getting a fold a lot of the time. So I would just say, generally, you're looking for those boards where people have capped their range. You're looking for boards where people have very much told you, I have 1 pair, please do not fire again. And you just go, okay, I'm going to give you 1 really big bet. I was talking about this with one of my students, and he wanted to try turnover betting, and he tried it something like 140 times, and it worked like 118 times or something like that. Now, this was obviously very low-limit poker, but it just goes to show you the turnover bet is definitely something that you can work with and get some kind of bluffing working with. To not use terrific language. That is a bluff that could be working for you that wouldn't normally work. The 60%, 70% pot size bet isn't going to work with the low 6 opponents. You got to go bigger.
Yeah. Now, let's flip the script and let's be the player that's facing a 150% pot size bet on the turn. How do I defend against that? Am I just supposed to call with all my top pair and better? Or
well, you cry first.
Yeah, it's brutal.
What you got to start doing is you got to work in some traps. So what you can't do is just raise your sets 100% of the time. And then if you're actually holding some mediocre overpairs there and you're holding some great top pairs and you're holding some sets, it becomes, that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do with maniacs, because the thing about poker is, one of my students put it this way, and it was a really good way to put it, was nits beat stations, stations beat maniacs, maniacs beat nits. If you're going up against a maniac, the correct answer is station. And usually maniacs have favorite boards. So let's take that coordinated board where your range is likely capped. There's certain players that just cannot hit the brakes on that board at all. The best idea would be to do it when you have some kind of draw that you could possibly hit on the river as like a backup plan, just to make sure you're not doing it that often. But there's a lot of maniacs that just indiscriminately fire constantly. So what you got to do in that point, if you've got top pair, just close your eyes and call down and hope for the best. It's very much like getting in a coin flip situation at the beginning of the tournament. You're going to win the majority of the time, but not all of the time. Sometimes he rivers a goofy two pair or an overcard or something like that, and you just have to deal with that.
Yeah, and you remember those moments because they hurt. But they don't actually happen that often. Yeah, it's not that common.
Yeah.
So if you have an opponent that's capable of over-betting on the turn, then you basically need to slow play against that guy once in a while and have something big when he decides to try to push you off of what he assumes is something not so big. So that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you just start trapping him. Well, actually, this is what you do. If somebody overbets versus you, in your game, calmly pick up your chips and leave. If it's a tournament, finish the tournament and then leave. Because if you're playing in the United States of America, you probably shouldn't be seeing many players who know how to overbet. But most of the time, I'm the only one overbetting in the entire room at any time. You know what I mean? So generally, if you're in a game where people are overbetting pretty well, look to game select just a little bit more. And if you have to stay in that game, maybe that guy's the one killer and everybody else is bad at the table, just close your eyes and calm down a couple of times. One way or another, he's going to know he can't push you around. The game's going to adjust.
Yeah, for sure. You just reminded me that, I've been doing a lot of solver work. The listeners know I've been using GTO Wizard. I think GTO Wizard is one of the best poker tools ever invented. One thing, the solver is savage. The solver will have us over betting 200%, sometimes 300% of the pot. And, when you play with this tool enough, you start to see, okay, there are spots when I thought I was betting big. I'm not betting anywhere near as big as is optimal, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One thing I like to do is kind of go through and realize what the solver's doing that I'm not doing. By the way, guys, if you're interested in trying out GTO Wizard, we have an affiliate code. You can just click the link in the description of this podcast. You get 24 hours, unlimited access to all of GTO Wizard's features. And then when you're ready to buy, just because you click that link, your first purchase, you save 10%. Now, usually what I do, Alex, I go through whatever hand I talked about in the previous week and then look at it again with the solver. But I don't want to do that today because I know you brought a hand that you really wanted to run by me, and let's see how little I really know about poker by talking with one of the top coaches in the world about poker.
Well, I'll tell you one quick thing on the solver. I've had to have my friends help me with it. I feel like such a dinosaur with the solvers, but I do have an account, and it's just started going through it. But what's really fun is seeing what people have to do to defend versus your bluffs. And it's like, okay, so the one I got really curious about was I was triple barreling a lot versus this one big blind player. And I thought, am I overdoing this? And I went, I'm like, hey, could you put this in and tell me what he's supposed to call with on the river? And it's like, okay, let's look at this. Well, about 55% of the time he's supposed to call you with top pair, and I realized in that stage of the tournament he folded every single top pair.
Yeah.
And I went, not all of them, but most of them, right? Not if it wasn't the better top pair. But yeah, if you work with it, you can actually make some really sick exploitative plays if you know how to eventually work with it. But yeah, anyway, enough about the solver. Let's talk about this hand.
Yeah,
So
before you do the hand though, let me just, on top of that, that's what I'm getting the most from GTO Wizard is how exploitable my opponents really are. In other words, how far away from GTO most of my opponents are actually playing. And so that's how far away from the solver output I can actually be. If you have a guy that's going to fold top pair most of the time, you should be bluffing that guy on every single river for the rest of his life, right?
Exactly. And they call you with top pair, top kicker, and they're like, gotcha, or like top pair, second kicker. And you're like, dude, you're not even close. Like, because I know you folded like king 2 through 9 or whatever it was, right? But the one that blew my mind was looking up big blind defense. And I thought, I think I'm check raising enough from the big blind and look at the output, what? I'm supposed to be doing that.
Not even close.
I'm way off. I'm exploitable too. But yeah. So this hand, this was actually I sent a newsletter about this to my subscribers just the other day, so it's fresh in my memory. And if you want to sign up for that newsletter, go to pokerheadrush.com. You get free daily strategic content. You get 3 free training packages just for signing up. Anyway, so this hand, I was playing the $600 six max in Blackhawk. I had a younger guy to my left, Reg, and this gent did not seem like he was in the business of folding. So let's start with that.
Okay.
So he's so far he's playing pretty well, but he's a little loose. We have 100.5K in chips. He had 80,000. The blinds are 1,000, 1,500, 1,500. It's folded around to me in the small blind, and he's in the big blind. I make it 4.5K to go with jack of clubs, 8 of clubs from the small blind. He calls immediately from the big blind, which is not really surprising. It's a day ending in Y. He's just not going to be folding to me. That's my read. And this is already like you're really building a pot out of position, but I like it because I felt pretty comfortable with this guy post-flop. And I feel much more comfortable with the big moves in these $500, $600 tournaments because honestly, if I win this tournament, it's not going to change my life. So I'm not really worked up during these post-flop scenarios, and I know a lot of people kind of get up in their head. So I'm pushing the envelope a little bit. The board comes 10 of clubs, 5 of spades, 2 of hearts. We have jack of clubs, 8 of clubs. So first things first, what do you do here? So you've raised pre-flop to 4.5K. He's called. Effective stacks about 80K. You want to c-bet? You want to check? What you thinking?
So we didn't really flop anything. Jack 5, 10-5 deuce, and none of our suit, right?
Yep. No, one of our suits.
Oh, one of our suit. Okay.
Well, clubs. We have the jack 8 of clubs.
Oh, okay. So then we actually kind of do have a lot of good turn cards that we can double barrel. So, I always like to, if I'm going to do a pure bluff on the flop, I like to have certain cards that'll come that would make me feel really comfortable, over betting the turn or just putting out another barrel on the turn. And so in this case, obviously any club would give us a flush draw, a 9 or a queen, for example, would give us a straight draw, right? So there's a good number of cards that will actually improve our hand despite not giving us a pair. So yeah, I mean, with that in mind, we could bet this flop. We could also check raise it, planning to double barrel one of those other cards. The advantage of check raising is that if your opponent decides not to take the bait, you get to see that turn card for free. But it's also harder for you to represent anything because, right? I mean, you didn't bet the flop, right? Yeah. I guess I would bet. Maybe about a third of the pot. Get the party started. Yeah.
So we're simpatico on that, if that's the right $4 word. Yeah. So I bet 5K. He calls very quickly, like automatically. Right there, that's telling me something. I'll discuss what in a second. I bet 5K. and he calls. The turn is the queen of clubs. So now the board is 10 of clubs, 5 of spades, 2 of hearts, queen of clubs.
Yeah, that's one of the best turn cards we can get with the Jack-8 of clubs, because now we have a straight draw and a flush draw. So that's perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great card for us to go ahead and barrel. So
good. So he has 69,000 chips left. He's committed about 11,000 so far into the pot between blinds, antes, and the pre-flop raise. The pot out there is 20.5K. What is your bet size here?
if we bet half the pot here, then that'll get us to about 40,000 total pot, and he'll have about that much behind.
Mm-hmm.
So that sets up a pot size bet on the river. We can also bet smaller and then have that over bet shove on the river, which is kind of spicy, and it's just got the advantage of being much harder to call. On the other hand, a larger turn bet is also harder to call. So, yeah, I guess all things being equal, I would just go about half pot here and have that pot size bet behind.
Yeah, that tends to be what I find most folks want to do, but that goes back to that nobody folds to my bets, which is the half pot size bet. Now, it sounds like you're going to give him a run for his money on the river, which is totally fine. What a lot of people do, though, is they bet 10K on that turn, and then the guy calls them, and then they brick on the river, and then they check fold, and then they'll tell everybody who will listen they never hit their draws, nobody ever folds to me. What I did was, so first of all, when the guy quick calls on the flop, most people, when they flop a decent 10 there, they got to think about, am I going to raise right now for value, or am I just calling with that hand? There tends to be a couple of seconds of hesitation. The quick call, like the automatic call, a lot of the young guys, that's kind of like, ooh, I really like my hand, check to me on the turn, and then I can pick up this pot. So I'm really not worried about a 10 that much. It's a lot of ace eyes that call me on the flop, king eyes, 7s, 6s, 5x, 4s, 3s, hands of that nature. Obviously, he could have like king, queen, or queen, jack, which is not good for me on this turn. But the vast majority of the time, I don't think this is really that good of a card for him. The other thing is, I do want to set up a river jam of some sort, because let's say he takes his sweet time and then he calls me on the turn. Well, now there's a flush draw and straight draw on that board. If he did have two pair, if he did have a set he was trapping with, most people panic once they see the flush draws and straight draws out there.
Yeah.
The biggest pots most people have ever lost in their life was set versus flush, two pair versus a straight. So they usually just rip it in. If you get the long hesitation on the turn, that's usually not a queen, because you know what to do with a queen. You're just going to call. And you kind of don't want him to shove river. Most people don't want the guy to shove river. They go, but this pot is big enough right now. So they don't mind showing a little bit of strength on that turn. So, yeah, anyway, I bet 20,000 into 20.5K. He did not look pleased, and he took his time. He shuffled his chips and whatnot, and then he went ahead and let it go. So the very next hand, I opened at like 3K on the button, and he just ripped 69K in there. And I go, okay, you don't want to play a flop with me anymore, huh? And then he kind of went, I'm not scared of you, buddy, you know?
Right.
But I do like those bigger bets, because the thing I've noticed, so let's say we check raised on that flop. We're not really representing much of anything, and young guys, if you're not really representing much of anything, they kind of act like you're going after their honor. Like, you think I would fold to that? And if you do the half pot size bet on the turn, they've kind of practiced for that a lot of the time, because that's the most normal bet they've ever seen, which I still like your line. If you're going to bet half pot, then overbet jam on the river. I still like that. But most people aren't doing that overbet jam on the river, so what they do is they bet the half pot, then they give up on the river. If you're really just going to be done on this turn, make it a bigger bet right there. Your bet doesn't even need to work 50% of the time. And unless a lot of times he's going to find a fold even with a 10, because many people just don't put that kind of pressure on them. And, you're facing a pot-sized bet. There's still a river to play. Any river, 9, king, ace, club, or God knows how many other cards are not going to be good for you on the river. It puts people in really tricky spots. So I generally recommend bigger bets on turns just to get people who don't like to fold to fold.
Yeah, I hear you. If you told me that I'm not allowed to bet the river no matter what, then I would want to bet as much as possible on the turn. But
right.
To me, I think I get the best of both worlds betting smaller on the turn. If you bet half pot on the turn, then you might be able to get paid on the river when one of your draws comes in, but you also might be able to bluff him off of it when you brick off on the river. So, but yeah, if I'm not allowed to bet the river, then I would definitely love to bet at least a pot size on the turn for all the reasons you said. They don't know how to play against that. They haven't practiced for it. And, they're just, what am I supposed to do? And it looks so much scarier than the sizing that they're used to seeing.
Yeah, it does seem like the bigger turn bets are a little newer to a lot of people, so I notice a lot of bad decisions, a lot of just, I don't know what to do here, I'm going to fold. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really do like the triple barrel jam a lot too. I like overbetting that river. That's really fun as well.
Yeah, and I guess, given stacks, the check raise on the flop doesn't really, we don't have 4 barrels worth of chips here, so we've got we've got to do it in 2 or 3. Yeah, that's a fun one. And so it sounds like one of the takeaways from your new book is that you've got to try to confuse people and get them out of their comfort zone by bet sizing. I mean, that's one of our most important tools as no-limit players. We can bet whatever the hell we want.
Exactly. And just do the bets that are unorthodox and uncomfortable for them. So most people are really good at just... I used to struggle versus regs all the time when I first started playing poker because I thought, all these people do is never fold, hit their hands, and I don't hit anything. How am I supposed to win versus that? And then it wasn't until I started using bigger bets and triple barrels. Yeah, triple barrels are really great because to be fair to most of these regs, most people will fire the flop. A lot of people will fire the turn. Very few people fire the river. So if they call the turn a little indiscriminately, then they overfold on the river. That's actually a really good population adjustment. It's just not good versus you. So a triple barrel bluff is a great way you could confuse them. And an overbet is really good too, because 9 times out of 10, a pot-sized bet and overbet is some imbecile with an overpair or a set who's terrified of draws coming on the river. So they're just playing the odds. This is probably just another dumbass with an overpair who's terrified of a river club or a river straight card or whatever it is. I'm just going to fold my 10 right now and go on with my life.
And for so long, we didn't really see these overbets. I mean, the solvers are kind of what showed people, it's okay to bet 200% of the pot, 150% of the pot, whatever. And this was something that we just, for all those years, you and I were out there, grinding and hustling and being rounders, and you just hardly ever saw it, honestly. And now it's everywhere.
No, I know. I got really into overbets in like 2015, 2016, and just in really basic situations that were like, but this was the only time I saw it back then was when people capped their range. Yeah. And then you just bet a little bit bigger. But yeah, I had one main event back then. I went 0 for 4 on my overbet. So I literally overbet folded 4 times during a main event, which sent me into a realm of pissed off I did not know I could get to. Like I literally was just like standing up at the table, cussing, yelling at myself, looking like John McEnroe after a bad serve. And because, that hadn't happened to me all year. I was money with my overbets, and I was just so off during the most important time of the year. But yeah, back then, I remember you would do an overbet, and the whole table would stare at you like, what the hell is wrong with you? Did you read the pot size wrong? And now you see it in Vegas, you see it a little more. In most of the country, you still don't see it as much.
Yeah, it sounds like I won't be seeing too much of that at Blackhawk when we head up there in January.
Yeah, probably. Well, so far I haven't seen much of it other than myself, but haven't played a ton out there yet.
Yeah, well, okay, so pokerheadrush.com, you've had this site for a very long time, and is it literally daily strategy in my inbox?
It has been daily strategic newsletter since 2017 or 2018. I forgot the official start, but it's literally every single day.
Wow,
so,
that's a lot of commitment.
Yeah, I'm kind of a crazy person. I like the pain when it comes to writing, I guess. But yeah, I also thought that'd be something fun. Like, who has a daily free strategic newsletter, right? Let's have fun with it. But yeah, if you go to pokerheadrush.com, if you sign up for the newsletter, you get a free training package on how to play Ace King when it misses the flop. So you can check that out. There's also another one on triple barrel bluffing. If you want to do Clayton's special play, that you can check that out. And there's one about 3-betting. It's kind of an older product, but people like it, so I put that one up there too. But yeah, you can sign up, get all the free stuff, and then just unsubscribe for free if you want. But yeah, I would really like it if you stuck around. I think you'll enjoy the newsletter.
Okay, guys, so check out pokerheadrush.com. Get free daily strategy content from one of the greats, Alex, the Assassinato Fitzgerald. Alex, it's been such a pleasure to have you back on the podcast. Before we say goodbye, anything else you want people to know?
Just go to the site, pokerheadrush.com, go to amazon.com, and check out how to beat players who never fold. I really appreciate your guys' time. Thank you for listening to us.
So for Alex Fitzgerald and for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Luck and intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.